Hi everybody. In Mark chapter 3, there's a really interesting incident involving Jesus, the Pharisees, and a man with a withered hand. Let me read it to you now. Mark chapter 3. Again, Jesus entered the synagogue, and a man was there with a withered hand. And they watched Jesus to see whether he would heal him on the Sabbath, so that they might accuse him. And he said to the man with the withered hand, "Come here." And he said to them, "Is it lawful on the Sabbath to do good or to do harm, to save a life or to kill?" But they were silent. And he looked around at them with anger, grieved at their hardness of heart, and said to the man, "Stretch out your withered hand." He stretched it out, and his hand was restored. The Pharisees went out immediately and held counsel with the Herodians against Jesus about how to destroy him. So picture the scene. It's Sabbath. It's the day of rest. It's the day where there'd be worship and there'd be praise and there'd be no work. And the Pharisees, they've got this guy, they're just using this disabled man, and they're using him as bait to kind of catch Jesus out, to see what he'd do. Will he heal him on the Sabbath? That's work. You mustn't do that. These Pharisees were so bitter, so evil. They were so intent on doing ill, catching Jesus out, stopping him, of just being a spoiler for good things. They were so intent and so bitter on causing trouble for others that they'd overlook the fact that this man had needs. They didn't care about him. They did nothing to help him except sort of push him forwards as this sort of, let's use him. Let's see what happens with him. This is why Jesus is so full of anger at them. They're there with they think it's so clever, their trick question. But he's there as Lord of the Sabbath. The Sabbath is for Jesus. The Sabbath is for him. And what happens on the Sabbath? What happens when brothers and sisters gather to worship and to rest in the presence of God with each other? What happens? What truly is the great vision of the Lord of the Sabbath? It is to bring blessing, is to extend grace to those who have great need. This man's withered hand, I don't know, in our heads maybe we can't really picture what that looks like, but it's utterly shriveled, almost like it's not there. So when Jesus says, "Stretch out your hand," it's like there is no hand to stretch out. It's this manky, mangy, withered, awful piece of failed flesh that does nothing. Jesus says, "Stretch it out." This is a sheer act of grace, the power of God, and he stretches it out, and you can imagine the creaking and cracking and the sinews extending and the flesh being plump and fresh and restored before the very eyes of these people that Jesus has eyeballed with an angry heart. You didn't care. You think the Sabbath is all about yourselves. You want to cause problems. You want to be a spoiler. But Jesus sets us straight. This is what it's about. This is what the rest of God is for. So in 6 days God worked. He rested the seventh, but there was a purpose for that. That he might be with his creatures, Adam and Eve. He might bless them. They might receive from him the life, the goodness of the garden. They just take time out from their weekly routine and they are there with the Lord and they enjoy this pasture, this fruit, this goodness, this life, this blessing. And here we see again the Lord of the Sabbath, the one who walks in the garden in the cool of the day. Here he is, and he's doing just that. He's bringing life, he's bringing blessing, he's bringing goodness. How do you see the assembly of God's people? I know in lockdown we are missing the fact that we can't gather together. And the gathering together of God's people under the preaching of the word, around the table of the supper and the sacrament of baptism, that's what we're gathering for. We're gathering there so that Jesus can bless us and cause us to be fruitful and multiply and fill the earth. There are often those who come in with that spoiler attitude. Jesus is angry with them. They come into his assembly looking to cause problems and to spoil things. Not to help the people themselves, but to trip people up and see what others might do. Our attitude to the assembly, the gathering of God's people, must be like this, that we see Jesus, the Lord of the Sabbath, the one who wants to bless. We're full of enthusiasm for it, of seeking to do good on the Sabbath, not to kill, to save life, for it to be a place of salvation, a place where grace and things like this, which, people who just can't do anything to help themselves, the Lord helps them. As we gather around his table, as we come under the preaching of the word, we're there with our brothers and sisters. We can look at them face to face. Okay, we might be wearing masks. Okay, we might not be able to hug them, but you can look them in the eye and you can tell them that you love them, that they're part of your family, and you can give them life. You can give them blessing. You can perform some of those one another commands. You can pray for them. You can ask them how you can help them in their day to day. The gathering of God's people for rest is the highlight, isn't it? This is the thing we're made for. We miss it. But it's only a few more weeks. And God willing, we'll be gathering again in December, first Sunday of December, under the preaching of the word, around the table of the Lord's Supper, where Jesus will minister to us through word and sacrament to bless and give life to his people. And in the meantime, let's get our attitudes to that assembly in line so that Jesus is not angry with us, so that he would bless us and we would receive the life he longs to give to us. I hope that's a helpful little study. Real quick, just off the back of Mark chapter 3 there. There's loads more you could read and study if you want about that. But I hope you have a great day. God bless you, and we'll see you soon.